sister-in-law told my ex with schizophrenia the time and location of my baby shower. This story needs a lot of background to fully grasp how severe everything is, so buckle in. My ex-boyfriend Jake, 27, and I, 27F, broke up a few years ago. We had been together for over 5 years and were thinking about marriage and buying a house together. In the last year of our relationship, everything fell apart. Long story short, he had a sudden psychotic episode and was placed in a mental health ward, mental health facility attached to hospital. This is in Australia, FYI, for his safety. Following this, his entire personality changed and he developed delusions, hallucinations and paranoia which never went away. A large part of his paranoia revolved around me controlling people around him and thinking I was trying to make him look crazy. He also constantly accused me of cheating on him and told me many times that he hated me. He was let out of the hospital after some time and I took responsibility for him. This change in him was heartbreaking. He was eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia. I did everything I could to be there for him. I went to all of his mental health appointments and stayed up at night to make sure he didn't leave the house alone. He was prone to wandering out at night when experiencing psychosis. Things became too much for me to handle. He became angry and his paranoia about me made it impossible to help him. He didn't trust me to be close to him, but at the same time he didn't want me to leave his side as he was convinced I was cheating. When he seemed to be doing a little better mentally, I broke up with him. I waited until I felt he would be okay on his own and helped organize for him to move back in with his parents. I was filled with guilt for that decision, but it was the right choice for me. I was struggling. For months I received no love and was used as an emotional punching bag. I did my best. He wasn't the same person anymore and his resentment, for me, was intense. Obviously this isn't the full breakdown of his mental health issues as a lot of the things he went through are very personal. I never blamed him for what happened, but I needed to be happy and did what I needed to. It was a messy breakup, but it went better than expected. We kept talking for a little while as friends. I think the entire time we kept contact he assumed we would get back together at some point. I continued helping him when I could. When I started a new relationship with my current partner Sam, 30M, Jake had a really bad psychotic episode and threatened both of us. He accused me of cheating on him with Sam before we broke up, which makes no sense as I met Sam after we had broken up, and sent both of us intense messages. I managed to contact Jake's family who got him the help he needed. Following this I cut all contact with Jake. It was obvious that we couldn't maintain a friendship anymore. The only slight connection I have to Jake is my brother's girlfriend Jess, 29F. Her and Jake have been friends for years and have maintained their friendship. She knows the entire background to our relationship and never chooses sides. I would say I am close with her. We have always been friendly. It always made me happy to know that Jake still had a good friend to confide in. Shift forward to March 2022. I got pregnant with Sam's baby in January and was 3 months pregnant. I had just told my family and close friends about the pregnancy. I told everyone to keep it quiet as I didn't feel ready to publicly announce it. I was incredibly emotional, nauseous and in no state to deal with any potential fallout at that point. Less than 24 hours passed after telling my side of the family and I received a phone call from Jake. He had found out I was pregnant and left a voicemail saying he would be filing for custody of the baby. Obviously he was in a psychotic episode, so I ignored his calls and let his family know that he had reached out to me. By this point it had been over a year since we had even spoken. He has no idea where I live or work, so I'm not worried about him showing up physically to confront me. I knew the only way he could have found out would have been through Jess. I called and confronted her about it and she admitted to it. She was extremely apologetic and said she didn't think it would matter. She thought he would be fine with the news and said he deserved to know. I was upset by this, but I hadn't explicitly told her not to tell Jake, so it could have just been a mistake. Even though I told her to tell no one, I bit my tongue to keep the peace. I forgave her but made it very clear that she shouldn't tell Jake any more information about me or the baby, and she agreed it wouldn't ever happen again. I didn't hear anything from Jake for months. Last weekend was my baby shower. Sam and I had the baby shower together. It was more of a party than a traditional baby shower. We hired a function room at a bar and invited 80 people to come celebrate. We were all having a great time until I saw Jake standing at the bar, looking around. I managed to slip away without him seeing me and grab security to get him escorted out. The area had been roped off for us as a private function, so I simply told them he hadn't been invited. I watched as security approached him and asked him to leave. He was furious and started yelling, demanding to talk to me before he would leave. Sam and several friends went over to him to try and talk him down, but it only escalated. He screamed at Sam, claimed that he was the baby's real dad and that we had never really broken up. At this point I left to hide in the ladies' room until my mom came to let me know Jake was gone. He had eventually left after a little more screaming. I was mortified and we cut the baby shower short. I couldn't stop crying. It's now been a few days and I confronted Jess. She is the only person who would have possibly told him the location and time of the baby shower. I wasn't as kind on the phone with her this time. She admitted to telling him and apologized, but said how could I keep this a secret from him? I was furious and told her that she would no longer receive any news about me or the baby and that I would cut her out of my life. I'm not proud of it, but I screamed at her. I couldn't believe how irresponsible she had been. It wasn't her news to share. My brother called me after and asked me to forgive her. He knew she was wrong, but he didn't think he should also be punished for what she had done. He knew that by cutting her out I also wouldn't be telling him any news about the baby. In part he thought I should blame Jake for his reaction and not Jess, that she hadn't known he would show up. The damage was already done and I should let it go. I honestly don't blame Jake for what happened. He is mentally ill and needs help. It's not his fault and I know he will regret all of this when he comes back to a more clear headspace. I told his family what had happened and they told me he was readmitted to the mental health ward. He had threatened to harm himself if he wasn't allowed to see my baby. Regardless of whether I think he is at fault, I definitely don't feel safe with Jake now. I have a child to think about and he thinks it is somehow pretty scary. I haven't budged with Jess or my brother. My family all think I should forgive her so my brother can meet his niece/nephew. We don't know the intimacy, but I just can't trust her. She already broke my trust once and I'm furious. I could have been hurt if Jake had confronted me at the shower. So many things could have gone wrong. I don't know what to do. I'm heartbroken that my brother may not get to meet this baby for a while, but I'm scared that she could tell Jake information about the baby that could put us in danger. My parents and other family members have all agreed not to tell Jess or my brother any information about the baby upon threat of also being cut out. I just don't know how long I can feasibly cut them out before I crack. Sam is obviously on my side with all of this. If it wasn't for him I would be in a much worse state. Any advice would be appreciated. I'm finding it hard to stick to my guns on this and worry that news will leak to Jess from other family members. My parents were particularly hesitant to promise not to tell my brother when the baby was born.